Hi, this is Zoe, and you're welcome to Auto Says. What if I told you the coolest rear-engined cars aren't just made by Porsche? And some don't even try to be. Smash that like button if you're tired of every rear-engine discussion ending with the 911, and let's dive into a world where the engine rides in the back seat, but the drama rides up front. The Porsche 911 is legendary, no doubt. It's a story of stubborn German engineering that somehow made a flawed layout into a world-class icon. But what if I told you Porsche wasn't the only one bold or crazy enough to shove the engine behind the rear axle? Across the decades, automakers around the globe took a swing at the rear engine formula. Some were inspired by handling potential, others, packaging efficiency, and a few, let's be honest, they just didn't know better. Today we're exploring 9 fascinating, oddball, and sometimes brilliant rear-engined cars that aren't the 911. Some of these you've never heard of, but once you do, you won't forget them. Start with 1969 Chevrolet Corvair Monza. Before the 911 was even road-ready, Chevy was already putting a flat 6 at the rear of a production car. The Corvair Monza wasn't a tire-shredding muscle car. It was a different flavor of American cool. Sleek lines, lightweight, and responsive to tuning. It was affordable then, and it still is now. Sure, Ralph Nader called it unsafe at any speed, but let's be real. In the 60s, what was safe at any speed? Second is Fiat Abarth 595. Imagine a car that weighs half of a Miata and makes 30 horsepower. No joke. The Abarth 595 took Italy's humble Fiat 500 and turned it into a caffeinated go-kart. Loud, tiny, and full of life, it didn't need horsepower to make you grin. Back then, this was performance. Today, it's proof that less can be more, especially when it sounds like an angry sewing machine on espresso. Next, Porsche 356. A speedster holdup. We said no 911s, not no Porsches. The 356, a speedster, was where Porsche's obsession with rear engines truly began to bloom. With less than 100 horses and the size of a large suitcase, it took on the original Corvette and often came out ahead. This was agility over aggression, precision over power, and it set the tone for everything Porsche would become. Fourth is Porsche 959. The 959 is what happens when Porsche throws out the budget and builds a spaceship with a license plate. Yes, it's technically a 911 cousin, but this thing was its own beast, turbocharged, all-wheel drive, and light years ahead of its time. The Ferrari F40 was wild on a track, but the 959, it was unstoppable on a road, and it made the rear engine formula terrifyingly effective. On number 5, Puma GTE 1800. Ever heard of Puma? No, not the sneakers. We're talking Brazil's fiberglass phenom, the GTE 1800. It's got a hopped-up VW Beetle engine in the back, an ultralight shell, and enough personality to fill Copacabana Beach. It wasn't fast, but it danced through corners and looked better than cars twice its price. Who needs horsepower when you've got swagger? Next is Alpine A110 1600s. Before all-wheel drive ruled rally racing, the Alpine A110 used its rear-engine layout to dominate the dirt. Light, nimble, and tricky to master, this was the French 911, but with even more drama. Only the brave drove it flat out. But those who did? Champions. And yes, its spiritual successor today still makes driving purists swoon. Let's talk about number 7, Alpine A610. Skip ahead a generation and you get the A610. It was sleek, fast, and turbocharged, but saddled with the infamous PRV V6. The engine shared DNA with the DeLorean, and that's not necessarily a compliment. Still, it matched the 911 Carrera in raw specs. Problem was, no one trusted it to last. And unlike the Porsche, Alpine didn't get a second chance until decades later. And number 8 is Alpine A310 V6 Pack GT. Think sci-fi wedge meets French flair. The A310 was Alpine's bridge between rally hero and future hope. It had 150 horses, a featherweight chassis, and looked like it just rolled off a 70s movie set. Was it underpowered? Sure. But name one other V6 car from the 80s that makes people stop and ask, wait, what is that? Last but not least, DeLorean DMC-12. And finally, the legend that needed a flux capacitor just to outrun a Corolla. The DMC-12 had style, stainless steel skin, and Hollywood fame, but under the hood? That same sluggish PRV V6, it was supposed to have a rotary engine. It ended up barely having enough juice to keep up with traffic. But let's face it, you'd still drive one, even if it only took you to 88 kilometers per hour. These 9 cars prove one thing: the rear engine formula is more than just a Porsche trick. It's an idea that sparked innovation across continents, from Italian micro-missiles to forgotten Brazilian sports cars and French rally legends. Sure, not all of them succeeded. Some were slow, some were weird, some were borderline disasters, but they all dared to be different. And isn't that what car culture's really about? Not just horsepower, but heart. Not just specs, but stories. So the next time someone says rear engine and only mentions a 911, you'll know better. But here's the twist. There's a rear engine supercar from Japan almost no one talks about. Curious? Hit subscribe and tap the bell, because that story's coming up next. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Until then, stay driven. See you in next. Goodbye.